The cryptocurrency industry as a whole has experienced some serious financial, technological, and ideological shifts over the past several years. What began as, quote, magic internet money being tossed around on online forums has grown into an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars, an industry that has experienced at least one highly publicized boom and bust cycle. As a result, the conversation around crypto has changed. Along with the cryptocurrency industry itself, an entire sector of journalism has formed specifically to cover developments within crypto. And just like the industry itself, the quality and standards of journalism in cryptocurrency have changed and matured over time. Indeed, just as crypto companies that were powered purely by hype have gradually been phased out, so too have some of the crypto news media sources that failed to provide a valuable resource that wasn't completely based in hype, buzz, and dubious information. Recently, finance magnates sat down with Ron Friedman, editor-in-chief at cryptocurrency news media platform BlockTV. We asked Ron about the phenomenon of journalistic maturation, as well as the evolution of BlockTV as a journalistic entity in the cryptocurrency space itself. Ron also spoke about how the launch of BlockTV's BLTV token is attempting to create a new funding model for journalism and address some of the criticism that the project has received so far. Can you start by just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and how you got involved with BlockTV and the crypto sphere sort of more generally?
Sure, absolutely. So, Ron Friedman, born in Israel, spent, childhood kind of split Israel, Canada, and Zimbabwe of all places.
Zimbabwe?
Yeah.
Wow.
My father was in agriculture. He sold drip irrigation. So when I was 15, he announced to the family, guys, we're up and moving to Zimbabwe. Thought it was a made up country for a few hours there, pulling our leg. But no, it's a real place, and I lived there for 2 years, and it was fantastic and life forming experience. So that was kind of my childhood, and I returned to Israel and went to university. Served in the army here in Israel, mandatory military service. So I did 4 years here, and after the army, I decided I wanted to live in Canada. I went to university there. I got my bachelor's in political philosophy and political science, and then I went to University of British Columbia to get my master's in journalism. So I was a student at the University of British Columbia, and I was, a part-time job editing the local Jewish community newspaper in Vancouver. Writing about what's going on in the Jewish Museum and the gallery and the latest politics in between the different groups, and reporting on stuff from Israel. While studying, getting some bylines under my belt as well.
All right. So how did you make the segue into the tech world?
It was a long time coming. I was mainstream journalism for 10, 12 years. I was working at journalism startups and reporting on and editing, managing editors. On mainstream news, so everything from politics and geopolitics to military and diplomacy and current events and culture and finance and everything.
Okay.
And that was until 2 years ago is basically when BlockTV started to become a thing, where the founding team was hired, and we were a mixed bunch. Part of us, from the experience in journalism, TV, and web. Part of us from the finance world. Part of us from the tech world. We all came together. It's about 2 years ago with the idea of a dedicated television news channel.
Okay, gotcha. So I just want to ask you, how has this grown? I mean, you got into the BlockTV started right around, I guess, the time when crypto started to go really, really big and really popular, which is also, when I started working in journalism industry. But What kind of growth, what kind of changes have you seen, as far as the way that people are engaging with? This is a big question, so
Yeah.
let's.
Right. The idea for BlockTV came about right at the like you said, at the peak of so what, late 2017. The bubble or the boom or fond memories of crypto summer, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But it took us probably about half a year to get the operation started, and until we first started publishing news. So we hit it right after. We were reporting on daily price decreases, and then it wasn't the best time for the crypto industry, and it wasn't meeting any of the expectations. Right, we came in thinking it was one industry, and it was transforming before our eyes as we were getting started. So it was a bit of a shocker. The whole culture changed around it. Obviously, the price, but businesses that were doing extremely well and had a lot of advertising budget and a lot of PR budget, and we're hiring and diligently working on new projects. Some of them more successful than others,
Yeah.
but that all changed. At that time, suddenly places were closing down, tokens were disappearing. People were tightening up their staffs and budgets. So it still is an interesting time. And if there's one word to sum up the crypto business, it's volatility.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's on the short term, but also on the long term. It affects the business, the entire ecosystem pretty rapidly, I think, compared to any other. Definitely more than the type of journalism I was working in before.
Yeah, I can imagine. You have that perspective as somebody who worked covering other sectors before this one. But so I'm curious about. I'm curious about how I'm sure that when BlockTV started, maybe the goals and the mission, the overall vision of what BlockTV would do, perhaps changed a bit, as the industry started doing it. We started maybe in a time when there's a lot of hype and not necessarily a lot of, critical thinking, let's say.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely something that was needed in the industry. And I would argue that over time, the industry has started to sort of do that for itself. As you said, a lot of things are disappearing. You can't just launch an ICO and wait for people to throw money at you. So how has BlockTV's kind of goals and mission changed as the cryptocurrency has continued to evolve?
Well, look, our goal was always, we saw there was a vacuum, right? So there are and there were even back then even more so a lot of publications doing crypto news. But there are the big players, the CoinDesk, the Cointelegraph, obviously, some of the other big ones, and we started out just doing web until our TV studio and all our TV staff was hired, and we saw that there was an interest, but we saw that nobody was doing television treatment of it, broadcast treatment of it, and a big reason we thought that was needed is because at the end of the day, it's not a huge industry; it's a small community, and our mantra was always show the faces, right? So we're talking with the community and for the community. So it's different reading a quote in a web story or listening to a podcast and actually seeing and seeing an interview with the people behind the headlines, people making strides, people leading projects, people speculating about price. When you see their faces, and that existed to an extent on YouTube, but it wasn't a news publication that was doing that. And still, I think we're one of the few that do.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so there was that need in terms of product, and we thought that our team, all of us that are involved in content, come from a journalistic background, and we thought that we could bring those standards, those practices, those norms that we were familiar with to the space, and we try to do that and uphold those values in all our reporting.
So when you say that you tried to bring those norms into the space, what are you talking about specifically?
um, you know, Vetting information, due diligence, seeking comment, asking for requesting extra information, doing research before the interviews and after publication, packaging it in a professional, high quality, high production value methods. So from A to Z, from the prep work to the final product, uh, using the best journalistic practices we know and can achieve, to the product we're putting out.
Gotcha. So to that end, what are the things that you feel that you're most proud of when it comes to the things that BlockTV has accomplished over the last 2 years?
Uh, Definitely, it's the quantity and quality of the people that we have on a regular basis on our show. I don't know of many publications that do that type of intensive conversation. So I mean, throughout the last, we've been broadcasting since February 2019. We've had on close to 1,000 people from across the industry.
Wow.
Some of them recurring guests that we would like to speak to every few days or every week or once a month. But a bulk of our content is speaking to new people, the people we haven't spoken to before, people who run serious projects, who are active on all aspects. If it's from exchanges to wallets to crypto artists and thought leaders, programmers, developers. We really tried to bring as many people and as many interesting people as we can from across the community, and ask them about what they're doing to help chronicle and monitor what's being done in the business.
Absolutely. And have you seen, I mean, as somebody who has worked in the field of journalism, for a long time, have you seen the general quality of journalism in the cryptocurrency industry, improve, outside of BlockTV since you started?
I think like the industry itself, everybody's matured. I think everybody knows to take things with more good, healthy journalistic skepticism, and aren't as quick to add adjectives to products or projects that we're reporting about. And also, keener insights. I think we've all gained experience. Again, such a young and nascent industry, especially on these scales. That it's a learning process and it's a maturation process, and I think we're seeing it across the board. And frankly, I think people who or organizations and news organizations that didn't do that didn't last.
Yeah.
It's a product that if you're just creating hype or just creating buzz, or at one point it gets tiresome and unhelpful, and I think people aren't interested in that. And there'll always be shills, for lack of a better word, who gravitate towards that. But I think the general audience is also matured along with the industry and the organizations, and they can appreciate real journalism.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you a little bit about the token sale that you guys did. So can you just tell us about how, what was the inspiration behind this Block Live TV BLTV token, and how does the token model work to fund what you guys are doing?
Well, tokenization was always in the cards, and since the inception of BlockTV, we wanted to tokenize the journalistic model. When from the get-go, we wanted to build up an audience first, and then create a product, and start building out a brand before we issued the token. And that's kind of where we're at now. We feel that we've achieved at least sufficient recognition. Obviously, we want more. Always want more viewers. Always want more eyeballs, and more engagement. But I think we're on our way there, and we felt that it was the right time now. The token, the way we're envisioning it, and the way it's out in the white paper and all our publications, is a token that's going to be used, in the long term, and not to be too grandiose about it, but to change the financial model of our journalism, and possibly others. Again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we think we have an interesting model that can be adopted by other organizations, other publications, other industries as well.
So when you say that you're moving funding models, what does that mean on a practical level? Does the BLTV token allow you guys to rely less on advertisers, or how does this change the way that your journalism is funded, perhaps in a way that affects the content that you produce and the things that are on the platform?
All right, so the BLTV token works in three ways. And the idea behind it is to connect advertisers on one hand, BlockTV, the platform, our users, and sources, journalistic sources, with an economy powered by the token. Each one of those participants plays in the economy through a different technology that we're going to roll out. So we have what we call I-Prove technology, which is what advertisers pay a premium for quality interactions. If you can prove, if you as a viewer can prove that you've seen an ad, that's worth a lot more to advertisers. So we have a model of revenue sharing between the advertisers and us and the viewer. So think of it, I guess you and probably listeners are familiar with the basic attention token. So in their case, they use their tokens in exchange for viewing ads, or being exposed to ads on the browser. So ours works in a similar way, so that a viewer can prove through scanning a barcode that they've seen an ad, and they get part of the revenue, or part of the payment that the advertiser gives to BlockTV. And obviously, the more you view, the more tokens you can allocate, and the more tokens you hold also gives you a higher part of the revenue share. So that's between that's where the advertisers come in. We have what we call the engagement center, which is where you can pay using tokens to rank, to suggest, to comment, to engage with BlockTV and our on-screen content and our website and our social channels. So we have a menu of options where right? If and I'm throwing out numbers. Don't quote me on it, but it's
Yeah.
if you pay one token, then you can suggest a question for our anchors to ask the guest. If you pay 10 tokens, then you can propose or nominate a guest to have on the show. If you pay 5 tokens, you get a shout out on Twitter, things like that. So your users are paying with the token for engagement on the platform. And then the third method is the BlockTV newsroom, which is what we think is probably the most exciting, most innovative aspect of it, is where anybody who's a source of information can submit that information to BlockTV. If BlockTV decides to publish it, we do a revenue share with the person with the source, with the person who gave that information, based on the variables. So the amount of engagement, the amount of viewers, the amount of impressions that the article got, and BlockTV reserves the right also to add kind of bonuses. So if it's some special importance, if it has an impact on the industry, if it's it's an exclusive, if it's an expose, then we'll add bonus tokens to that, and we also allow tipping. So if readers are they like what they read and they appreciate the journalism and the information, they can choose to tell us a tip using the LTV tokens. So we tried to build it in such a way that it would have use for all of the stakeholders. So from the advertisers to the viewers, to the sources, and of course BlockTV itself.
So it hasn't been launched at this point, but it's on Bittrex. Is that correct, or is it being sold?
No, the token has been launched, but the engagement center, the menu that I spoke about, that hasn't been launched yet. The token was listed on Bittrex. I guess it was about a month ago. And it's being traded there since then. It's been listed on a couple of other exchanges. But yeah, the technological developments are still in development, but expected to come out. One of them, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Again, watch this space for announcements on that.
Gotcha. So there have been a couple attempts at tokenizing funding for journalistic models in the past. Probably most famous of them was Civil, which was about a year and a half ago, I think, at this point. And they had this great idea. They had an ICO, and ultimately the project didn't go anywhere. What makes you think that BlockTV's token is going to be different?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Civil. That was
really cool project.
They had all the right names, all the right partners, all the right intentions, but I guess perhaps they didn't have the right model. I mean, if I remember correctly, the use of blockchain there was for verifying sources, or not verifying sources, verifying information, code of conduct. I don't recall the exact use of the token there.
Right.
And maybe that's the problem. I mean, that's either it was too convoluted or too ambitious. Who's to say?
Right.
And obviously, the market had its own say. Why we think we're going to be where we're going to succeed, where they weren't able to, is again, we believe in our use case. We believe. I think that journalism is in dire need of a new financial model. anybody who's in the business knows it's a painful one, and if you don't have deep pockets from ownership or a subscription model, and even then, it's very, very hard to make it. And that's not crypto journalism; that's journalism across the board. So there's definitely a need to try new things, and the cryptocurrency economy is all about new things, and we believe in cryptocurrencies as a whole. We believe that they will be adopted, and we believe that the good ones will be adopted quickly enough to make a difference.
Right. And I think that the fact that you guys you're also covering specifically an industry, the cryptocurrency industry, and your audience is people who ostensibly probably own more and use more cryptocurrency than the rest of the general public probably.
Sure. Yeah.
Could
not that that's saved us from criticism. Probably even more criticism because of that. Because as I'm sure everybody we're our biggest critics, right? The crypto community is we're both our biggest cheerleaders and our biggest critics. So there's been a fair share of that as well, and we embrace that and accept that and work in reaction to that. There were, when we announced it, happily, the project received some attention. Not to say that all of it was good, but I think overall we're making people are at least wishing us well for our intentions and for taking the risk of attempting it.
Yeah, definitely. And on the note of some of that criticism, there's been some, not, from my point of view, not by any means widespread criticism, or, even criticism that's perhaps that well founded, but basically there's been concerns expressed on Twitter and, a few other social media platforms that having a tokenized model in journalism sort of creates the wrong incentive, and people drawing lines between BlockTV running certain kinds of stories and then the token price, coincidentally increasing or decreasing, as a they're drawing a correlation between these stories and the token price. But I guess my instinct when I look at something like this is that having your funding on a public blockchain actually increases transparency, and makes it so that because there's been plenty of instances throughout history when news organizations have been paid off to run or not run as the stories, but it happens in the dark. So
absolutely. Look, I mean, it's one of the values of the journalism industry, and transparency is ostensibly a value also in the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry. And as you point out, the criticism of, all right, if you're incentivizing sources, with tokens, it takes away from the objectivity, if anybody expects that. But what are the motivations as they exist now? When sources turn to you, they're usually either expecting something to gain something from it, promotional wise, or they're expecting their competitors to lose out from it, or they're expecting a return of sort. I think this makes it all the more transparent. So we're as a professional journalistic publication, we abide by journalistic practices and norms and values, just the same way that others do, and at the same time, we're offering a new incentive that's neutral. It's not politically motivated or ideologically motivated. It's pretty straightforward capitalism. And if a source has a story and they want to pass it on to a news publication, if they're going to choose BlockTV over somebody else because of a token, and because we value that source and are able to share revenue with them, there's worse motivations.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and I guess, as far as safeguarding against the kind of, perhaps somebody's like, well, I want to get this revenue, but, I might have a story that's kind of half baked. I don't really know that much about it, but I'm going to just tell BlockTV that it's a fact, in order to get my share of this revenue. I mean, of course, is basic journalistic integrity enough to safeguard against that kind of thing? Or are there additional measures that you guys are taking in order to prevent that sort of thing from happening?
Well, we're going to be vetting every story like every other publication does, and we won't publish a piece unless we believe that the story is true and the facts are accurate, and we've reached out for comment and checked our source. Again, the same publishing norms that exist everywhere else are going to exist here as well, and probably more so because we know that we've got people looking at us with a magnifying glass, and the token, like you noted, it can we can see, although maybe not the identity. I mean, people can choose whether they want to share their own identity, and that also has an impact on the share of revenue. But we're going to be working with people who have a good reputation, and if they offer us stories on a recurring basis, their reputation will go up. And if we see that what they're saying is nonsense, their reputation's score is going to go down, or they're not going to, their submissions aren't going to be looked at or accepted at all. So I think I'd argue we have all the tools in place to make decisions on a purely journalistic level, plus the elements of the token that go into it. And our readers and viewers and anybody who watches are obviously welcome to react to those stories, and if they have issue with it, we're always happy to give other people the platform to give their side of the story too. That's basic journalism.
Yeah. So if everything goes the way that you believe that it will go, which is to say, hopefully everything goes really well, where do you see BlockTV a year from now?
BlockTV is continuing, and as the time goes on and we build up our staff and grow and we expand our content, more segments, more hours a day, with more partners and with more views and more interactions. So on that channel, more of the same, please. And then when it comes to our token, we're really hoping that other publications, other news outlets, probably it'll take a while, and BlockTV is happy to be the proof of concept on that. But hopefully we'll realize that, hey, this is a model that works, and it doesn't have to work only here. And as more of the general kind of public and the population learns and uses and interacts with cryptocurrencies, we'll be more open to using them on non-crypto products. So if other news publications, covering sports or entertainment news, want to use that same model and have sources send them content and share with them the revenue that the content produces, our BlockTV token and a BlockTV widget will be on other websites and other outlets.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ron, I have to say, I'm a fan, and it's been such a pleasure to speak with you about all of this, and I wish you guys all the best of luck.
Well, thanks very much. I'm a fan too. You know that. Always great to see your face on our channel once a week, and hear your insights and your questions and your thoughts on all the burning issues of the day and the week. I'm sure we'll continue that cooperation going into 2022.